Happy Easter, everyone. Now it is currently Easter Monday, 9:34, otherwise known as, 21:34. I should change this back to 24-hour time. Anyways, so, again, if you've been paying attention, I've been reading the Quran. Was it? Oh, there's the dog again. Hopefully Zoe doesn't interrupt. You know, sometimes she can be real cantankerous in her old age. Isn't that right, puppy? Yeah? You gonna stick around and be quiet? Let's see if she does or not before I start into this. So I finished off at, I read, of course, a few surahs from, what was it, the believers. So 25, surah 25. Actually, no further than that. We had a fair chunk today. So 23, surah 23 through to surah 29, 50 to 52, which was almost to 30. Now, what comes to mind is of course Acts 16. And I want to talk about a little bit about my prison experience and you know how this stuff doesn't need to happen. You know, these stupid little conflicts that we have just because someone wants more power over someone else. And this is as close as I'll ever get to being a pastor, because quite frankly, I don't want to do that. My expertise is being an artist. It's being, in the future, a certified aerospace engineer. That's what I would really like. And quite possibly, as a shit disturber, otherwise known as an agent provocateur. I'm more of a comedian, you know. I'm just trying to poke and prod at people to make them think about what they're doing. It doesn't always work out, you know. I've done some embarrassing things, and I've done some absolutely stupendously wonderful things. Now, my experience in prison was not unlike that of Timothy and Silas, as I said in Acts 16:22, and I have this opened in, of course, the Jewish Bible here. So it's a little bit different than the King James Version, for which I read in prison. I read it twice, almost all the way through. And that's not the first time I've read the Bible from front to back in my entire life. But there's, I've had an absence between my youth and now concerning my attendance of church services, and just getting burnt out with religiosity and a little too much proselytizing and not enough action. And that comes also from my experience even with other family members, in which we speak and we pray, and that's it, just prayer and ritual and the same thing over and over and over again. It's like this slacktivist involvement within the faith, and just lift it up to God. Let it be God's burden. But I don't believe in that. I've had this conversation with more than one people, including with some famous passages from the Old and the New Testament, including a dog returns to its own vomit like a fool does his own folly. No, Zoe, please don't. Well, here we go. Excuse me. What? Either come downstairs, come on, and stay down here. Thank you, okay? And stay down here, or go upstairs and lie down. Come here, join me. Come on, you old dog. She's 15. My mom says she's 16 years old, but this dog is 15 years old, so that basically means she's over 100 years old in human years. Isn't that right, Zoe? Now, the the other verse that I really liked, or the other acts are, what's it? Tekel. What's it? It's in Daniel. It's in Daniel. But I'm not gonna. I'm not used to this. Ezekiel, Amos, Zechariah, Tehillim, Ezra, Nehemiah. Of course, there's other books in the Jewish Bible that are not in the Christian Bible. Like this is supposed. I guess this is supposed to be the Shumash. Yeah, Tekel, something uphersen, which means their kingdom is divided. And I did some writing. That's just what's in this folder here. When I was incarcerated in custody without being convicted for a year less a week. Okay, that is not fair for the things I may or may not have committed, and to be housed with people of much more serious crimes, and to be exposed to such violence, and then to have been beaten, is exactly the reason why I'm referencing Timothy and Silas, and then being called out for my lack of faith by other zealots, even. Or calling me, it was hilarious in one way, but really not. I have no questions of my faith, and I don't like when other people question mine either. It's not like I go around asking other people, "Are you a true believer or not?" So I have some writings that were my responses to reading the Quran. This is the final, the last, the final message, right? And based on the English translation of M. Marmaduke Pickthall. And this is of course this is an incomplete response. And let's see. So I got about 3 pages here that I'm going to read from this diary. Or this journal. Hey pup, are you coming up? You gonna sit down here, huh? Yeah? You want up? Okay. Up you get. Come on, just lie down. This is my relationship with my dog now. Okay. Let's see. Where am I going to start? So this was written on April 13th. And these are my comments again, trying to be as objective as possible, and by no means of insult to any Muslim or the Prophet Muhammad. Obviously, the Prophet was a man. He was a person. He was a deeply flawed person. And this is where it mixes into idolatry and so on and so forth, which I don't like. That's a consistent thing in the Old Testament, of course. No, bear no false idols, bear no false witnesses, so on and so forth. And there's a lot of anger and resentment. And I've said this to other people before, that there's no one more judgmental of religious people than other religious people, because what they really want is power over someone else and control over someone else. Okay. And I'm not going to get into the stuff like the differences between the Chumash and the Bible just yet. I still have to read the Jewish Bible. Okay, you gonna make your choice again? No. If you come up, you're gonna stay here. This is life with an old dog. Huh? Okay. So my comments on the Quran after 325 pages. I had not ever read the Quran until going to prison. Okay? So April 9th. Oh, so, shh. Please don't interrupt me. Please don't interrupt me. See, she's poking her head in the frame there again. Okay. And absolutely a bit of fear. There's some fear involved in approaching a new religious text. You gonna interrupt? No? Okay. So I'm gonna read my writing as it was from being inside. I've begun reading the Quran. I was apprehensive in doing so without a Bible present, because it felt like bad juju or a bad omen. Otherwise, I did not have any other reading material, so there wasn't much of an excuse to the contrary. After just three chapters, it is obvious that the text is better understood with a Bible present because of the commonality and references to the Old Testament, Jesus, the angel Gabriel, and other biblical figures. This is a logical conclusion for any scholar or religious leader, so any kind of Islamic extremism against Christianity is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And next, if you burn a Chumash, you burn a Jewish Bible, you'll be charged with hate speech and put in jail and called an anti-Semite. If you burn a Quran, you'll be assassinated and called an Islamophobe. But if you burn a Bible, nobody gives a shit. They'll just let you do it. Why not? Burn the Bible. Just burn it. Burn it all day long. Use it as firewood. Use its paper as rolling papers for cigarettes. And just tear it up. Use the covers of the Bible, roll them into tubes, crush up your pharmaceuticals, and snort it up your fucking nose. That's what we do with Bibles, and that's what we do with Christianity in our society. Anyways. Further comments. This is again from April 13th. I'm not impressed. Thus, I'm not impressed with Islam either. To say that the text is not translatable from its Arabic origins is completely false. The text makes no allusions to mysticism, and it expects the reader to have a priori knowledge of its subject material, which means listening to an imam or other religious figure in an oral tradition passed down from divine knowledge, only given to a chosen few that exercise blind faith and by definition surrender to God. It implies a one-way relationship and not a conversation such as with Christianity. It is highly aggressive, critical, and arrogant. It places the Prophet Muhammad at the same spiritual level as God himself and can be perceived as a false idol. The Bible and its authors did not assume such inspiration of self-importance or of self-righteousness. It does not speak of love or any conceptualization of these feelings, only of God's mercy and benevolence, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Hey, this is not love. This is judgment. This is moral absolutism where forgiveness only comes after death and not in life. The worship of Muhammad is a problem, as they also raise the prophet and messengers before him to a similar level of importance. It is as if any other source of God's word is the work of Satan. My impressions of the Quran and thus Islam is a text and a religion of hateful, resentful, and domineering sentiments, which is leagues away from any of the criticisms of Christianity. Christianity forgives. Islam destroys. My opinion is that the message of radicalism is that there is no such thing as a moderate Muslim. If you want to charge me for hate speech, fucking do it now. You know, I'm tired of being looked at as this pariah. You know, I'm tired of being treated differently because I was on the outside looking in. But I was doing this for a reason, you know? I was doing this for a very good reason. Isn't that right, Zoe? So the same things, of course, there are, again, a lot of commonalities. There's a lot of things to agree upon. But if I were to say anything of Judaism and of Israel, it would be this. Israel wants what it has always wanted. And what it wants is Lebanon. Okay. Let's see. I don't even think I need to read the rest of the story of Paul and Silas. I just need to reference it. There it is. Okay. There it is. There it is. Okay. So 16... Okay, 16:19. But when her owners saw that what had come out was any further prospect of profit for them, they seized Shaul and Sila and dragged them to the market square to face the authorities. Bringing them to the judges, they said, "These men are causing a lot of trouble in our city since they are Jews. What they are doing is advocating customs that are against the law for us to accept or practice since we are Romans." The mob joined in the attack against them, and the judges tore their clothes off them and ordered that they be flogged. After giving them a severe beating, they threw them in prison, charging the jailer to guard them securely. Upon receiving such an order, He threw them into the inner cell and clamped their feet securely between heavy blocks of wood. Around midnight, Shaul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God, while the other prisoners listened attentively. Suddenly there was a violent earthquake which shook the prison from its foundations. All the doors flew open and everyone's chains came loose. The jailer awoke, and when he saw the doors open, he drew his sword and was about to kill himself, for he assured that the prisoners had escaped. For he had assumed, sorry. But Shaul shouted, "Don't harm yourself, we're all here." Calling for lights, the jailer ran in, began to tremble, and fell down in front of Shaul and Silas. Then leading them outside, he said, "Men, what must I do to be saved?" They said, "Trust in the Lord Yeshua, and you will be saved, you and your household." Whereupon they told him and everyone in his household the message about the Lord. Then, even at that late hour of the night, the jailer took to them and washed off their wounds. And without delay, he and all his people were immersed. After that, he brought them up to his house and set food in front of them. And he and his entire household celebrated their having come to trust in God. The next morning, the judges sent police officers with the order, "Release those men." The jailer told Shaul, "The judges have sent word to release both of you. So come out and go on your way in peace." But Shaul said to the officers, "After flogging us in public, when we hadn't been convicted of any crime and are Roman citizens, they threw us in prison. Now they want to get rid of us secretly? Oh no, let them come and escort us out themselves." The officers reported these words to the judges, who became frightened when they heard that Shaul and Silas were Roman citizens. They came and apologized to them. Then, after escorting them out, requested them to leave the city. From the prison, they went to Lydia's house, and after seeing and encouraging the brothers, they departed. I would love to receive the same treatment. I would, but I haven't yet. And I said this in front of multiple judges. I must seek fair and due compensation for the amount of time that I was held in prison, and for, I'm going to call him Corporal Freckles, slamming my head into the wall in segregation at EMDC. He slammed my head into the wall. Okay? They held my hands behind my back and twisted my wrists in handcuffs up like this. Okay? Okay? When I was on the floor, face down in that jail cell, he was threatening me and saying he was going to take my arm home with him. This was after being escorted from cell block 3. And he says to me, "Corporal Freckles," obviously darker skin, and most likely a Muslim, "you call yourself a Christian?" And the worst part about this is that this didn't need to happen. It didn't need to happen. It's a fucking rookie move. And the sergeant participated. The sergeant is the man responsible for breaking my left ankle. And then the corporal comes around the next day after I get some medical attention, a few hours afterwards, and of course, the shift change. He comes around and brags about it. And then they try to label it as a slip and fall. Water under the bridge. Try to talk to me with a smile on his face about how I was going to be placed in a hybrid unit and that I'd be able to control how much social interaction I wanted. This is not a joke, okay? This is not a joke. I went on hunger strike for a month. I didn't have solid food for almost the entire month of May. And I gotta say, some of the staff treated me as though I was some sort of opioid or narcotics addict, or that I was schizo or some other mental health condition. Meanwhile, I'm just having nicotine withdrawal and trying to make people laugh. But physical comedy is not that funny in prison. I had to charge another inmate with assault because he was provoked by the fact that I said, I implied, obviously he was unstable. He had a dissociative disorder and some schizoid delusions. Absolutely. And he probably had some other assault charges in his history. And it's amazing how people who abuse not only the substitutes for the street drugs, so that's talking about methadone and Suloxolone, and doubling up with other substances, but they get a free ride. They're in and out as quickly as possible, like nothing ever happened. Yet I'm the one sitting in a jail cell because I won't plead guilty, because I dared to self-represent, and because I didn't have the resources, or there was a conflict matter, and the prosecution wouldn't come to me and say, hey, let's make a deal. Huh? It's a waste of time to waste other people's time. Let's put this in religious context. God did not waste Paul and Silas's time. He put them in there for a fucking good reason. And that was to teach the people. I'm just going to come to draw my own conclusions here. The difference between an innocent man and a guilty man. And if you can't tell the difference, you either need a vacation, or you're in the wrong profession, or you need more education and de-radicalization. And that's the fucking truth. We live in an age of so much propaganda that it's hard to distinguish what is real and what is a false representation in this hall of mirrors. So why don't you come and meet me face to face, motherfucker, and I'll show you what's real. This is the message. Because God is all knower and all hearer. Right? It's amazing when the person that does wrong to you comes up to your face and laughs at you. They laugh at you because they think that they're beyond reproach. Because they think they can hide behind their union. And they can hide behind their faith. But this is Canada. And I don't want to live in a country where that's the case. Where what I just said. Where there's abuses of power. And where people can just run around without having to face justice. Because I've had to face justice. And it's not pretty. God bless you. May this message find you. Amen.